The Dragon's Birthday Party Fiasco. Dara the dragon woke up the morning of her birthday with a flutter in her tummy. Sunlight slipped through the leaves and made a golden spot on her leaf-shaped pillow. She nuzzled her stuffed cloud and practiced a tiny happy puff that smelled faintly of clover. Today the forest would be full of friends, music, and cake. Dara's eyes sparkled with plans: pretty balloons, a picnic blanket, and a song that everyone could sing together. She put on a small blue ribbon and hurried outside to prepare. One by one, the friends arrived, each carrying something special. Benny Bunny bounced in with a basket of sweet carrot cupcakes and a paper hat pinned to his ear. Squeak the squirrel tumbled down from an oak branch with a string of sparkling balloons looped around his tail. Pip the bird fluttered in, singing tiny notes with a shiny feather tucked behind one ear. Tilly the turtle came slowly, steady as a drum, holding a small old music box wrapped in twine. The clearing smelled like grass and giggles. They spread the picnic blanket under a friendly oak and began to decorate. Dara tied streamers between branches while Squeak carefully placed balloons in a bright cluster. Benny distributed starry party hats and Pip perched on a twig to hang tiny paper lanterns. Tilly set the music box in the middle, winding it slowly until a sweet, tinkling melody began. The song wobbled like a little bell, and everyone clapped along. It felt like magic. Leaves rustled applause, and the sun winked through the branches. Dara wanted to light the candles herself because tiny dragon puffs can be very precise. She breathed a small, careful puff to warm the candle wicks and smiled proudly. But Dara giggled at how proud she felt. Her giggles made her tummy tickle, and her tiny puffs puffed a little stronger. A barely there breeze nudged balloons and toppled one hat. Pip chirped, "Oh!" Benny's ears flopped in surprise, and even the music box played a skip in its tune. Everyone giggled because surprises were funny at parties. Then the first little mishap happened. When Dara tried again, one puff asked to be extra excited, and whoosh, candles flared a wee bit too bright. The frosting on top steamed like a hot marshmallow, and the cake trembled with surprise. Squeak clutched his balloons, and Benny used his paws to fan a gentle breeze away from the flames. Dara turned her head apologetically, cheeks rosy. She didn't like making trouble. Tilly wound the music box again to calm the tune, and everyone watched the patch of steam curl up into the sky. Countless little giggles and puffs led to more tiny surprises. A stray puff sent a few balloons floating faster than Squeak expected, and one balloon nudged a paper hat until it tumbled into the grass. Pip fluttered after the hat like a blue bird on a windy day. The friends tried to steady the decorations, but every time they adjusted something, Dara's excitement made a new wobble begin. They all laughed a little louder. Laughter was the best tablecloth, folding them together even when things wobbled. Benny suggested a silly game to calm everyone down. A hat parade. Each friend collected a hat, put it on, and marched around the blanket to the tiny music box tune. Dara marched too, careful to keep her puffs tiny, but halfway through her snooty snout wiggle, she hiccuped a puff that blew the music box's little lid up. The lid popped, and the tune turned into a comical squeak. The friends laughed so hard their steps slowed, and a small butterfly landed on Dara's ribbon as if listening with them. For the next surprise, someone brought out the sparklers. No, not sparklers, just fizzy fruit drinks that bubbled and fizzed. The bottles popped and tickled everyone's noses. Dara sneezed the tiniest puff that tickled a balloon string, and the string slipped free. One balloon drifted toward the stream and danced on the breeze. It bobbed over pebbles and leaves, making a soft splish-splash sound like a tiny drum. "Oh dear," called Tilly, steady but worried. The friends jumped to help chase the drifting balloon. They tried to catch the balloon, but it had a mind of its own. It floated just out of reach, teasing them over rocks and leaves. Pip flew after it, chirping encouragement, while Squeak scurried and Benny hopped. Dara moved very slowly so she wouldn't puff the balloon farther away, but her excitement made her step a little too quick, and whoops. The cake you hadn't noticed was placed on a small hill began to wobble. The cake rolled gently like a sweet round pebble, and the friends gasped. The cake rolled faster than anyone expected. It bounced once, twice, and popped a bit of frosting like a tiny cloud. The cake sailed past the picnic blanket and went tumbling down a little grassy slope toward a shallow bend in the stream. "Stop!" cried Benny, but the cake was already hopping on a pebble like a merry, sticky rock. Pip fluttered above, flapping hard, and Squeak clicked his teeth in worry. Dara's heart beat soft and loud. She felt responsible, even though it was an accident. The cake hopped onto a smooth stone and slid into the shallow water with a tiny plop. For a moment, there was cake bobbing like a little raft. The frosting rippled with the water, and a few sprinkles drifted away like colorful seeds. Tilly, who had the slowest steps but the steadiest heart, suggested making a raft. "We can build a safe boat for Cake," she said in her steady voice. Everyone looked at one another and then nodded with determination, ready to work as a team. First, they found fallen twigs and a flat bit of bark. Squeak scurried to collect small leaves while Benny balanced a larger leaf like a paddle. Pip fetched light feathers, and Tilly arranged the twigs in a neat little stack. Dara gently blew the tiniest puff to push the cake raft toward the bank, careful not to make waves. Her breath was soft and warm, like a summer breeze, and the friends held their breaths until the cake bumped gently against the mud and sheltered rocks. When the cake was safe, the frosting was a little squished but still sweet. The friends clapped and giggled, and Benny offered the first slice to Dara with a flour-dusted bow. Dara's eyes filled with warm tears that were really tiny, glistening smiles. She felt loved even when things went wobble-wobble. They set the cake back on the blanket and rearranged hats and balloons, tying strings extra snug. The music box played again, this time steady and bright, and Pip began a cheerful trill that made everyone sway. Just when they thought the surprises were over, a sudden gust from some playful wind tangled the balloons into a big, colorful knot. The knot lifted the streamers and almost sent the party hats spinning. Dara laughed so strongly that she hiccuped a tiny heart-shaped puff that floated like a soap bubble. The sound of their laughter chased the wind away, but the balloons stayed stubbornly knotted. Squeak bit his lip in concentration, and Benny rubbed his paws together. The friends were ready for one more clever plan. They tried gentle tugs, steady pulls, and soft wiggles, but the knot held firm. Then Pip had an idea. Make a little pulley using a twig and a loop of string, and let Tilly guide the music box melody to keep everyone calm. Working together, they built the simple pulley and took turns humming the song. Slowly, carefully, the knot loosened. The balloons drifted free and bobbed above like a friendly rainbow. All the friends cheered, their voices folding into the music box's tinkling tune. At last, it was time for the birthday song. Everyone put on their hats and circled the picnic blanket. Tilly wound the music box, and Pip fluttered above, leading the tune. Benny hopped and clapped, Squeak twirled his tail, and Dara sat very still, taking a deep, careful breath so her puffs would be gentle. They sang a happy, bumbling song that made stars of leaves twinkle overhead. When the song ended, Dara closed her eyes and blew out the candles with the tiniest, faintest puff she could make. After the song, they shared the cake and the fizzy drinks, and every bite tasted like the kind of perfect sweet that comes from friendship. They told silly stories about the morning's mishaps, the dancing balloon, the rolling cake, and the knot of balloons that turned into a rainbow. Dara hugged each friend with a careful, warm squeeze. "Thank you," she whispered, when the sun began to dip. The friends arranged themselves into a cozy pile of smiles on the blanket, full and sleepy and bright-eyed. As evening painted the sky in lavender and tangerine, the music box played a soft lullaby. Fireflies began to blink like tiny lanterns above the clearing. The friends leaned back and watched the first stars appear, counting one by one. Dara's ribbon fluttered in the cool breeze, and a dandelion seed drifted onto her nose, making her giggle quietly. They promised to remember this birthday, not because everything went perfectly, but because they had helped each other when things went topsy-turvy. Before they left, Dara gave each friend a tiny thank you gift, a hand-drawn star on a leaf. The stars shone just a little in the dim light because they were made with giggles and gratitude. Benny tucked his leaf into his hat, Squeak pinned his behind his ear, Pip held his carefully in a claw, and Tilly placed hers on her shell. Dara kept the smallest star for herself and put it by her pillow that night. She felt sleepy and very, very loved. When the moon rose high, the clearing quieted to a hush of soft snores and contented breaths. Dara curled up on her leaf-shaped pillow and remembered every wobble and giggle of the day. She thought about how a rolling cake had become an adventure and how a balloon knot had become a rainbow. Sleep wrapped her like a warm blanket, and in her dreams, the friends danced around a cake that smiled with frosting moons. Tomorrow, the forest would tell the story of the dragon's delightful, messy, marvelous birthday. Long after the party, flowers near the stream still looked a little dusted with frosting sprinkles, and a tiny music note seemed to hum in the breeze. Neighbors walked by and smiled, because in that forest a birthday had been more than candles and presents. It had been a day when friends fixed mistakes with kind hands and silly ideas. Dara woke the next morning with a stretch and a smile, already planning next year's party, perhaps with kites instead of balloons. She giggled and practiced a careful puff, ready for new surprises.